Friends, hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Of course, there is much to discuss about today. So I've been talking with a lot of people, and there are so many people around, and so many people want to understand what is going on and the way forward. And certainly that is why I'm here to discuss with you all. At this particular critical stage of the struggle, we are asking a question: what is the way forward? We are not trying to march back, move back to what we don't know. We are trying to march on to what we know, and to what we know is the way out. So thanks for joining. It's kind of an impromptu, but of course, Facebook released me from jail a few minutes ago, and I thought it wise for me to join you all after a very long waiting in the cold and waiting in the Facebook jail to talk with you all. I appreciate everything everybody has done in this struggle. I appreciate very much, especially the works done by the key leaders of the struggle. I appreciate the work done by the social media bloggers, very much in particular, my friend Mark Barra, whom I also have a message to pass to him on this particular video live. I also appreciate the work of Akosom Pauline and her husband, of course. Behind every successful woman, there is also a man. I appreciate the works of every single blogger, social media blogger, pro-independence, pro-federalist. I am very inclusive, and I appreciate everything that has been hurtful to the regime. There is much to reveal today concerning the Nigerian leaders. I've been in the cold for a while. I've been observing, and I've been having facts. I've been gathering facts because the struggle has so many moving parts. But first, I cannot talk without appreciating those on the ground, the people on the ground who have done a marvelous, a fantastic, a tremendous job so far when it comes to the restoration of the statehood, when it comes to the restoration of the lost statehood, when it comes to the restoration of particularly human dignity. When I'm talking about human dignity, I mean that mother who was burned to ashes, the 92-year-old mother who lived all her life in absolute hope, just to be burnt to ashes, charred to ashes. In fact, this is beyond human condemnation. And if that is the way mothers will be dying in Cameroon or in southern Cameroon as a price to pay for what they've offered as human services all through their lives, therefore we are living in an absolute dictatorship, in absolute corruption, and in absolute pain and misery. If our citizens cannot travel back home in successful manner, in a border flight without fear of being repatriated back home at the airport, therefore it means the country is not different from North Korea, where you're flying over the air skies, over the skies of North Korea in fear that a missile may bring down your plane. We have lived in absolute pain for the past 57 years now. We've lived in absolute pain under Mr. Paul Biya for the past 34 years or 35 years. And of course, this particular year, 2018, marks an end to Mr. Biya's rule in Cameroon in particular, and southern Cameroons in general. At this particular stage of the struggle, I have so much to discuss in this, whatever, 2 hours video or so. I have so much to talk, and I have so much to answer from you. I'll be accepting calls. I'll be accepting every form of messages or questions. But first, let me address the people of southern Cameroons, then move over to the people of La République, then move over to the people of Nigeria. So there are 3 parties involved, but there are so many moving parts at this stage of the struggle. In the first place, let me address this message to every southern Cameroonian who is down on the ground. The ground has been very turbulent. I've been speaking with a lot of people who come from Cameroon, the people who traveled during the month of December and February and January to visit Cameroon. And the stories I've been hearing have not been pleasing at all. I've spoken to quite a lot, from Los Angeles to New York, where I'm based and where I'm currently based, and the stories have never been pleasant. First, these people live in absolute fear. If you have not been back home, you should get this clearly. It is being reported that the people back home, especially in Bamenda and Boya, are living in absolute fear. The fear even talking about the struggle in public because you don't trust who is whom. That means the people move around as if they are being chained in the mind, chained in the feet, and chained in the hands, and chained on the lips. These people cannot even talk about the struggle in public. And the very moment when you cross from Bafoussam into Bamenda, there is no internet, which means Cameroon is too and very divisible. In fact, no matter how much small the buttocks is, it will always be divided. And if that buttocks can be divided, no matter how small it is, therefore we too can be divided. And exactly when you leave from Bafoussam into Bamenda, there is no internet at all. Completely no internet. And at this particular stage of the struggle, we should not be crying over spilled milk. If we're going to bump to Boya or even Kumba, it is completely militarized, completely militarized. But there is good news to come, and the good news is that we are winning. And when I say we are winning fatly. First, let me talk about the most contemporary issues, how it all began, how our leaders were arrested, and where is their fate at this particular moment. So I crave on your indulgence to share this video for everyone to understand exactly what happened, for everyone to understand the way forward, and where our leaders are currently hiding, or currently begging for freedom, or currently placed in their own state of mind. As we are speaking, it is not time to be throwing tantrums from left to right or accusing people, because I know we are very fond of throwing blames at people, especially when we have no facts and when we are caught in the midst of confusion. It is not the first time this is happening. Blames have been thrown at Bala for taking bribes, especially when we're caught in the middle of confusion. Blames have been thrown on Tapang Ivo for Dr. Fontem's whatever, and people had no facts, and when they produced the receipt, that is when everyone went tongue-tied. Blames have been thrown from left to right, so we have a history of blaming people when we are caught in the midst of confusion. So I've been hearing people blaming Atamilan and blaming other people. Please, let's stop this blame game and get the facts right. When these leaders were arrested, or before these leaders were arrested, several things happened. The first, I spoke with Ayok Tabe, the president of the Ambazonia movement, and he said, 2 days before he was arrested, he called me from New York. Not New York, I was in New York, he called me from Maryland. And he was in the midst of other SCNC leaders, including Cometa Aries, who is the president of SCNC North America, Baraku Sebastian, who is the presidential security, head of presidential security, and a host of others. He called me as he always calls me, and as we always speak, Ivo, how are you? Fine. He's a very nice person. Ayuk Tabe Sisiko is a very nice person. Is it because Ivo does not speak about these people in public that you feel Ivo is not part of the team? Ivo has always been an instrumental part of the team. Ayuk called me and we spoke, and we were very, very cordial in our conversation. And he was like, Ivo, you should come to Maryland and meet me. I told him I'm running other things, including family affairs, and there is no way I could be there. However, when we spoke, I was very shocked 2 days after that Ayuk was arrested in Nigeria. I clearly disbelieved. I threw away this particular story. I debunked it because I knew it's a lie, and Ayuk is in the United States of America. Just for me to realize that this story was broke out by the French media. You all know who the French media is and who are those who are running these French social blogs. Now, if it's coming from French journalists or French social media bloggers or French whatsoever, and not from us, not from our own Mark Barretta, or not from Ivo, or not from Vela Franklin, or not from call any name you want to call it, then it is something you have to raise an eyebrow on. When this story was repeatedly reported by the French bloggers, I contacted a few couple of social media bloggers on our side, and they said, no, they are not aware of this particular story and that we should throw it away. Well, 2 hours later, the same story was trending on the French social media blogs. And it was not a story that we could throw away. It was not a story that we could wave aside with the left hand, or in fact, thumb our nose on. When this story was broken, and 3 hours later, there was a video that was released by Atamilan from Nigeria. I think it was done in a hotel room or something, in the toilet or whatever. This particular video by Atamilan sent shockwaves to Francophones. I saw the story dying down immediately, and for once I believed that this particular story was true. how the interim president or whatever, Mr. Siseko Ayok and his team went to Abuja and they were arrested or they were disappeared, because I will not say arrest because no arrest warrant was issued to them. They were disappeared, kidnapped from the hotel rooms and conference room or whatever from that particular narrow hotels, has sent shocking waves down my spine. For the first time, I knew I was living in a dream, or I was living a life and dreaming a life. And this, till this particular moment, I cannot comprehend it. Because first, how do our leaders leave from Calabar, Nigeria, where they are based, to Abuja, several thousands of miles away from Calabar? And what would pull them from Abuja, from Calabar to Abuja? That is the first question. The second question, what is very important in this particular meeting that has not been revealed to the public by even people who are still alive and people who had to attend that particular meeting? Atamilan should answer that question. What was the purpose of this meeting and why was the choice of Abuja? That is a pertinent question. I'm not throwing accusing figures at someone. I'm asking pertinent questions because we are talking here about lives and not a life. We are talking about lives that are presently lost. So why should the choice of Abuja be the priority? Why should such a meeting not be made to the public, especially when the meeting is holding in the political capital of Nigeria, Abuja? And what is the purpose of this meeting? What is the purpose? We understand that when diplomatic meetings want to hold, the capitals of every state, every sovereign state are always prioritized. That means that even if a meeting is supposed to hold in Yaoundé, in Cameroon, Yaoundé must be prioritized. If a meeting wants to hold in the state of Amazonia, Boya is the priority. If a meeting were to hold in, let's say, Washington, in the United States, Washington certainly would be the priority. We are always looking here about the political capital of every sovereign state. And for the first time of our struggle, a meeting was supposed to hold in Abuja, in Nera hotels and not any kind of hotel, Nera hotels. Well, let's assume that these people had to change location. Would they go as far as Abuja to hold this particular meeting? Or would they even hold it in Calabar, where the refugees are, where the UNHCR has set up a base in Calabar, in Cross River State, in Ikom, Nigeria, just close to Calabar or close to whatever? Would they go as far as in Abuja, far away from where the refugees are, far away from where the implementing partners are, far away from where the United Nations has set up its base to take care of these particular refugees who have fled from Cameroon? That is the question that has been lingering in the minds of many people, and that is the question that we have to bring to the fore. So now, after investigating and after being in a dark for quite a while, I come to you with critical facts and undisputable facts. Number one, when these leaders had a tip-off, there was someone who tipped off that the United Nations wants to negotiate with these particular leaders in Abuja, Nigeria, and that there would be Cameroonians who will be part of that meeting, René Sadi in particular. And at that point, everyone knew that René Sadi was in Nigeria. And he came to Nigeria with what the Cameroon military calls the C-130, C-130. And this is a particular helicopter that was waiting on the airport, on the tarmac of Abuja for quite a while. So when René Sadi came to Abuja, he came with that particular aircraft. That aircraft had been there for quite a while, waiting, and Nigerians took photos of that on their tarmac. You know Nigerian media and how they are very nosy with such news. Then René Sadi had come to Nigeria with so much money, but disguised that as a pretext that the United Nations wants to initiate the first stage of a dialogue meeting, an inclusive dialogue meeting towards solving the crisis with the people of Southern Cameroons. Now our leaders hurriedly rushed from Maryland in the United States of America to Abuja. Others were on the flight from Norway or wherever in Europe to Abuja, but they were caught with this particular news and had to cancel their flight. And other people had left from Calabar and all other parts of Nigeria to Abuja. The hotel bills were all paid by these so-called proponents of the UN meeting. The hotel bills were all paid by René Sadi. The hotel bills were all paid by these people who had dubiously organized a meeting to arrest our leaders. At this stage, I will tell you clearly and frankly, the deal was well planned. It was completely well planned. It was well planned as a complete mafia state, rogue state, a dubious state, a gangster regime. You know how gangsters act? When we give the name gangster regime, it's not for any mere circumstance. It is because when it acts like a gangster, it is a gangster. The regime is completely a gangster. They had set up this particular action to round up all the leaders as soon as they could have it. You remember, prior to this particular Abuja meeting, they also had a conclave. The conclave in Nigeria that was so turbulent, Mark Barra was part of it. And La Republique had carefully planned that the next conclave or the next gathering could bring in the same people, Mark Berata included, possibly Tapang Aibo, and all other leaders. And that will make a very good deal by sweeping everybody. But as God will do his thing, and as God has always done his thing, there's always one left out of the bag. Well, when these leaders were tipped off about this particular dubious United Nations meeting in Abuja, everyone went to Abuja. When they went to Abuja, that is when the deal was done. René Sadi had offered 500 million francs CFA, 500,000 million francs CFA to the Abuja authorities. That is the DSS, that is the Secret Service of the Nigerian authorities. I'm speaking here with all facts, and had also offered the money to the Vice President of Nigeria. The Vice President of Nigeria was charged with instructing his DSS, the Nigerian Secret Service, to execute this particular action. People were hired or to work in that hotel for that particular day. The receptionist of that hotel was hired and was later on fired. The manager of that hotel was hired and was later on fired. And all the people who acted in favor of the leaders and their stay in that particular hotel were hired and fired later on. Now, I spoke with the manager of that hotel, and I have the video, the audio I've been waiting to push out as soon as my Facebook is back. You'll be listening to that audio in the next few minutes, especially after this video, and you will give me your take. This manager clearly states that he does not understand what happened in Nigeria, in the hotels, and that people have been calling him to ask him questions, and that even the cameras in that hotel was not working. The cameras were not working on that particular day. What a coincidence. That the cameras in that hotel were not working on that particular day. Wow. In 365 days or 66 days in a leap year, the cameras are not working. Interesting. What a coincidence and what a probability. So at this particular stage and at that particular stage, the people were all rounded off in that hotel, and the people had no way to go to, nowhere to hide, and no one to come to their rescue. This particular hotel is so large, it is gargantuan, it is so big, and there are so many clients in that hotel. And for you to pick up one person, go and keep him in the car, come with the other one, go and keep in the car, it was a well-planned act. Nigeria, as we speak, performs very poorly on the human rights record. Nigeria has a very poor human rights record, worse than even Cameroon. Nigeria would trade you for money if push comes to shove. Nigeria would sell a brother just to have a cup of water to drink. Nigeria is a complete rogue state. If you understand nothing about Nigeria, think of doing business in Nigeria. Nigeria thrives on business, and most of its money comes from dubious actions. This is a country that has a track record of disappearing leaders. From Samuel Doe of Liberia. We all know Samuel Doe, how he was arrested, how he was rounded off in Nigeria because of some dubious actions. Nigerian authorities dubiously rounded off Samuel Doe, the president of Liberia at the time. Also, Nigeria had arrested Charles Taylor, the president of Sierra Leone, who was fleeing away from the international community and running into Cameroon for shelter. Nigeria arrested this particular president, Charles Taylor. Nigeria arrested Samuel Doe. So the track record of Nigeria has been very clean, and its stakes in this particular struggle are so high. Nigeria, because of course previously they've arrested, or they had arrested, other leaders. It is not new that they've also arrested Ayub Tabe and his entire cabinet. I may not be part of the cabinet, but as long as it concerns a human life, as long as it concerns what hurt Mr. Biya, I appreciate and I approve and I support. Ayub Tabe, as we speak, cannot be lying in limbo and we walk around drinking water and enjoying ourselves in clubs, pubs, and bars. It is impossible. It is impossible, and it is with a heavy heart that I'm speaking to you, that if at this particular moment we don't have Ayub Tabe and the rest produced to the public, it means they have been killed. And it is better we accept the fate of these particular leaders now and take certain actions towards restoring the lost statehood of Southern Cameroons, or we keep crying and crying and the dead body will never ever be buried. At this particular stage, it is one chance to God. Of course, I give 1% to God. God has a hand, and an almighty hand, and I believe in miracles. God has a hand in this particular struggle and in reviving or resuscitating these leaders. And 99% humanly possible, the leaders have been killed in Nigeria. They were not in Cameroon. These leaders were all rounded off at Milan, who reported that he had a delay in his flight. Anyone could have a delay in his flight. If you've been flying internationally, I, for example, have always had delays in my flight. I believe you too have had delays in your flight. And we understand that a black man always calls what we call BMT, not GMT, black man time. We always come late for every event, including baby showers and the rest. We come late for every single event. Milan may just have come late, so it is not a pretext for us to point fingers at him. He may have also come late for that particular meeting. But the fact that Milan would come late for that meeting and he would not reveal to the public the exact purpose of this meeting. The purpose of this meeting was not particularly the humanitarian action towards assisting refugees. It was more than that. The UN had been tipped off. Let Milan produce the calls, the phone calls, or even the messages or emails with whom he exchanged prior to that particular day when they were all arrested. I'm not accusing anybody. I'm putting the questions as succinct as possible. Milan should produce exactly the emails that he exchanged probably with Ayub Tabe, or even the WhatsApp messages he had with Ayub Tabe just 2 days or 3 days before this event. Perhaps we can track or we can follow up exactly what they were discussing about and what the purpose of the meeting was all about. We are talking here about lives of people, and not only people, family heads. There are so many men in that particular group. There was a woman who had a baby. We are talking here about her baby. Her baby's responsibility to know how her mother was killed or arrested. At this particular stage, Milan should produce exactly who called him, the kind of phones, messages he had, or email. I believe they were exchanging emails, email addresses, email exchanges he had with Ayub Tabe. That we could have a clue. It is very imperative, especially when someone is arrested or when something happens around anybody. The first person you would often ask the question is the eyewitness, who saw it and exactly what they have at stake. And if we cannot question Milan and put him on the hot seat, or even send lawyers to ask him questions, then we are not doing the right thing. We just sit on the social media and we're throwing out questions, or we're throwing out attacks. Let a team of lawyers go to investigate Milan. I'm not accusing him of anything, but it's just to have further evidence and much more information about how these leaders were arrested. Secondly, we also believe that these people all had phones. We should contact Glo Nigeria and all telephony mobile companies in Nigeria to ask them the last messages or the last calls these people all received This is something nobody has spoken about, and I'm speaking here as a security analyst. Call, pick up your phone, or send a team of lawyers to Nigeria to investigate with all the mobile phone companies. I believe all of us have IOCTA-based number. We have whatever, the numbers of every other leader in Nigeria or whatever, and all of those who were part of the team, part of this arrest. Send a team of lawyers to Glow Nigeria and to all of those telephone companies to investigate, to ask this particular question. Can you give me the exact numbers that call this particular person who has disappeared? Give me the numbers that call these people prior to the meeting in Abuja. The messages they received, all of those companies are very, very much well placed to go into the database and look at exactly the messages they received, the last calls they had, and all the plannings they are prepared. I believe there is something in those calls. I believe we can track those numbers and we will have a clue. Also, at this particular stage, we should be looking at the leaders who had to participate in the meeting. From Ayabacho, whom is reported to have been cleared or denied a visa at the airport to go to Nigeria or whatever, I don't understand the circumstances. I believe he had to be at that meeting. He may have a clue also about what was going on in Nigeria and exactly the kind of a meeting that was supposed to hold. I don't believe it's all about humanitarian refugee assistance, because Ayaba, my good friend I know, will not go to Nigeria just for humanitarian refugee assistance. It's much more into the defense league, the defense team. It could have been a conclave, it could have been whatsoever, but I believe there is so much that has not been revealed to the public or to the families of these particular leaders. I read a message from the wife of Sisiko Ayoktabe, and the message read, she does not understand what happened in Nigeria and the circumstances under which her husband was arrested. She is still casting doubts, and she's casting huge doubts that have to be cleared to the public. There is much to reveal, and there is so much to talk about. But when Milan knew about this particular action, I brave his courage for taking his time off to produce a video from his hotel room to let the public know about this particular arrest. Certainly, like any other human being, he would want to do his preliminary investigations before talking to the public. He left from Rwanda in Kigali, from Kigali, Rwanda to Abuja. He works at the United Nations with a relief agency, and probably leaving from Rwanda, Kigali, where you work as a UN officer, to come to Abuja, there must be something at stake. He did not leave from South Africa, he left from Rwanda. So let Milan tell us exactly what was happening. He has so much to talk about, and it is undeniable. And when Chris Anu went down to Nigeria, for him not to have even met any of these leaders, it raises an eyebrow. So where are the leaders? The lawyers themselves have openly claimed that they have not seen these leaders. So where are the leaders? Even the head of Nigerian Secret Service, the DSS, was sacked by Buhari shortly after the leaders were arrested, probably to kill the evidence. So where are the leaders? No one, as we speak, have seen these particular leaders. So where are the leaders? And the pressure had been mounting so much on the Nigerian authorities. These two thieves collaborated in stealing our leaders, Nigeria and Cameroon, Abuja and Yaoundé. The pressure had mounted so much that these people had to release the pressure. You understand how pressure works, especially when you exert pressure on one part of the body, it rises up and there is some negative anomaly on the other part of the body. And that is how it works, and that is how it has always worked. Now the pressure was mounting on Abuja, and Cameroon, that had initiated this gangster action in Abuja, had to release Nigeria of the pressure somehow. First, the very moment when these leaders were arrested, they were killed. That could be a possibility. The very moment that these leaders were arrested, the initial plan was to transport them in the C-130 that had been lying on the Abuja tarmac for a while, to transport these leaders to that helicopter and take them over to Cameroon. And that could have given a political victory for Mr. Biya, especially as he's running again for 2018. In 2008, he declared himself president for life. Now he wants to waste taxpayers' money by running again for elections 2018. Whom is he fooling? At this particular stage, that was what was supposed to happen. That was the plan A. The plan A was botched, was debunked, was crippled, was punctured when Milan released his video saying these people had been arrested. The plan A was that nobody had to know exactly what happened. The leaders will suddenly disappear into thin air and everyone will be asking questions and not talking as Milan was talking with facts. So that was the plan A. So when Milan came out with his public video, I thank him for that. That clearly punctured that particular plan. And when that plan was punctured, two things were supposed to happen. Sadi Rene had to extend his number of days in Nigeria, and so too, the plane on the tarmac of Abuja airport had to be extended. The duration, its stay on that tarmac had to be extended. And so many, of course, would have to go into Nigerian coffers for renting that particular space, that particular parking lot. The money comes from your pocket. Don't ask where the money comes from. It's from your citizens' taxpayers' money. And that is how the gangster regime operates. So at that particular point, when they had to round up these leaders and take them to Abuja, Nigeria, and take them to Yaoundé, Cameroon, Sadi Rene had to extend his stay, and the plane also had to extend its stay. So more money had to be pumped in from Yaoundé into the coffers of the Nigerian Secret Service. And more money also had to be pumped into bribing certain leaders who had known about this, even the hotel manager of Naira Hotels, and sealing their lips and transferring them to different countries. As I speak, some of them have been taken away into other neighboring countries like Ghana. Some of them could be in Cameroon as well, waiting to be flown over to the United States. We all know how this gangster regime operates, and I have an insider source in the presidency, fortunately enough, an Anglophone who is revealing to me all of these secrets, all of these particular actions, all of these particular steps that I'm telling you now at this particular moment. I chose to speak in English. Let Chiruma Bakari understand what I'm talking. He is watching me as we speak. There are several key leaders in the presidency of La République du Cameroon watching me as I speak. They are French speaking, but they understand English. That is why I'm addressing this message to everyone. And when Sadi Rene had to extend his days in Nigeria, it became a complex issue. One, they were trapped in two situations. Should we kill these leaders and kill the evidence, or should we still go on to extradite these leaders to Yaoundé? Extraditing this leader, these were the challenges with those particular questions. One, extraditing those leaders from Abuja to Yaoundé would mean that even Cameroon and Yaoundé and Nigeria have no extradition treaty. That means legally it is not permitted. It is not permissible. It is not allowed. It is illegal. And no court in Nigeria, till we speak, have even approved the extradition of these leaders. As we speak, even after Chiruma spoke, no court has approved that, no single court, which makes it completely illegal. Also, the United Nations was touched on this particular issue, and they have been on this particular issue. So extraditing them and Cameroon starting a new year on loans and probably writing letters to the IMF and World Bank, those corrupt institutions, it will be hell for them getting loans to run the entire 2018 year. Also, donors who will be certainly participating with the upcoming 2018 elections will deny funding the elections, and that will become even more critical for Mr. Biya staying in power. So what happens is that, one, they had to kill the evidence. Killing the evidence means killing the leaders. That was the best way for them to have chosen. At this particular stage, after those leaders were killed, when those leaders were killed, the pressure mounted even more because no one had seen these particular leaders. And even till this very moment as I speak, no one has seen them. When these leaders were killed, Chiruma Bakari had to release the pressure from Nigeria by coming up with a statement that these leaders are in Cameroon. It is a lie, it is a fat lie. Remember, when these leaders were arrested were disappeared, I would not use the word arrested, were disappeared in Abuja in the Naira hotels, the first media to have broken this particular story were the French media, the French press. all of the French press went onto this particular story like some wild beast feeding on a prey. All of them went on this particular story, reporting it from left to right. No Anglophone journalist even reported it. This should raise and this should give you a clue as to what happens. Secondly, Nigeria has a track record of arresting other presidents. I'm talking about sit-in presidents who are fleeing for safety. Charles Taylor and Samuel Doe of Liberia. Nigeria once did that, and Nigeria is doing that for the third time. And this time with an entire cabinet of Mr. Ayuk Tabe Sisiko. Thirdly, as we speak, and at that particular point, Cameroon and Nigeria could not extradite this leader or these leaders because there were so many moving parts and everyone was aware of this particular story. And this could have slapped a huge diplomatic defeat to Mr. Biya if he had done so. So as rogue states would operate, kill the evidence, you don't say anything, I don't say anything, we stay mute. But increasingly over time, there was so much pressure on Nigeria and Mr. Chiroma Bakari had to come out clear the air. Remember when Mr. Chiroma Bakari was giving this particular interview or this particular press conference, Mr. Biya was not in the country. Mr. Biya is, as we speak, critically ill. Remember how I analyzed the state of health of Mr. Biya during the 2017 New Year end of year speech. Mr. Biya was critically sick. Even physically, when you look at him during his last public address, he is really sick. He speaks as if there is water, there is a tap flowing on his tongue. So his mouth is very watery. And even the cameraman who assisted in video recording Mr. Biya and his 2017 end of the year speech said Mr. Biya's mouth smells. Probably it's getting rotten from inside. The cancer is so bad. So he is currently on a life critical condition. We don't know if it's dead or not, but the French media has been reporting it. That is something I'm coming to later. Let's not go too far. So when Chiroma Bakari kind of released the pressure, he released the pressure from Nigeria. This is what happens. All attention shifted from Nigeria to Cameroon. At least Nigeria assisted Cameroon in doing this particular action. So it is time for somebody to claim responsibility. And it was right, for Mr. Biya and his gangster regime to have claimed responsibility. They openly acknowledged that these leaders are in Cameroon. Remember, shortly before Issa Chiroma Bakari had released this statement, the United Nations UN Commission, United Nations Refugee Commission, the UNHCR, it released a statement, but it's a very open statement. I have been a communications expert for a very long time. I have worked with the United Nations. I have worked with USAID, and I will tell you clearly tell you how press releases are written. That particular press release by the United Nations was very dubious. One, it did not clearly state who the leaders are. Are you talking about the pro-independence leaders in Nigeria under, to be more specific, Ayuk Tabe or those who were arrested in Abuja, or you're talking about, because every other person fleeing the conflict is a leader. Every other person, every kid fleeing that particular conflict is a leader. So, or are you talking about the 39 people, the 49 people, whoever who were arrested on the field or whatever in Abuja somewhere in Tabara State or whatever? Are you talking about those people? Or are you talking about more arrests? The UN was very open about that, but not very specific. So we expected the United Nations to come up with another release clearly stating that we are talking here about Ayuk Tabe, these people or the people who were arrested alongside Ayuk Tabe. There you would become very specific. So when I saw people like jubilating, oh, the United Nations knows about our leaders, the UN has no clue, and nobody in the United Nations has seen these particular leaders. The UN has completely no clue about it. The people who have clues about this, one, Abuja, and two, Yaoundé. These two people had to release pressure somehow. Expect at least you co-opted a thief into stealing mangoes. Now, both of you have been caught. One person has to claim that I am the one who initiated this. It was Yaoundé's part to claim it. And don't expect Nigeria to claim it. And that is why even till now, Nigeria has remained mute. Nigeria has remained quiet. Even after the acknowledgement by Mr. Chiroma Bakari saying he thanks Yaoundé, Nigeria for the collaboration. Literally, when a government thanks another person, you expect a press release within the next 24 hours or whatever, acknowledging that thank you. We also thank you for the collaboration. Till today and this very moment, and I bet you forever, Nigeria will never openly say thank you. Nigeria remains mute and silent because they go by their first words. They earlier denied that they are not part of this. Yaoundé denied they were not part of it, but later on accepted. Nigeria denied, and Nigeria has not accepted. So what Mr. Chiroma is doing is politicking between Yaoundé and Abuja. Both, they are playing a huge game here. Chiroma Bakari says, I acknowledge our cordial relationship with Nigeria. They did a fantastic job in sending these terrorists to us, and we thank them, and we and fatter. Thank you. Good. Then we expect Nigeria to also say, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate how we collaborate in eliminating terrorists from Boko Haram to southern Cameroonians who are fleeing for refugees, status and arrest. We thank you and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Nigeria has never, ever done that. And don't expect Nigeria to do that. And sometimes being silent is being part of the crime. But Nigeria is carefully and playing a smarter game than La République du Cameroon. And that is the game that they've agreed on. That they will not reveal to the public exactly who is part of this particular arrest. And they will not reveal to the public exactly who should be blamed at this moment. So Cameroon has carefully embraced the responsibility. Cameroon has carefully embraced the blame and leaving Nigeria a little bit free from international pressure from the international community. And that is the whole setup. That is completely the setup. So don't expect Nigeria to say, oh, we are issuing a press release accepting the responsibility of us arresting or even disappearing these leaders. No. Chiroma Bakari, at this particular stage, there is a game going on. This is what is most likely to happen. One, remember, those leaders have been killed. Now they are looking for an exit strategy towards the killing or the murder of these leaders. Don't expect to see their corpses. The corpses have been disappeared. That is a fact. Now they are looking for an exit strategy. What is the exit strategy? Number one, in the next days ahead, you will see Chiroma Bakari coming up with another press release stating that some Anglophones wanted to free these leaders from the Yaoundé prison. Listen carefully. Some Anglophones wanted to free these leaders from the Yaoundé Konenge prison or the Makod, where they were kept, wherever in Yaoundé. And in the process, our security guards opened fire, and all of these leaders were killed, were fired, were shot. That is a point that they could possibly come up with to give the claim that the leaders have died. Some Anglophones, because the Anglophone insiders, excuse me, some Anglophones tried freeing these leaders in Yaoundé, and so in the process of freeing these leaders, we saw that there was something or whatever, they were tried or they were fired or whatever or something, or they've been killed by firing squad. Something would happen, like there was some attempt of a jailbreak. Remember, this is La République planning this ahead. When I will talk, it always happen. Just listen what I'm telling. And at this particular stage, it is impossible, it's not impossible for the regime to come up with any pretext. These are things that are carefully planned just to ease the pressure on Nigeria. And remember, the leaders are not existing. I said it in a video with Yannick. I did a video last time with Yannick, and I will say it again. They are caught between the Atlantic Ocean and Nigeria, not between Yaoundé and Nigeria, not between Yaoundé and the Atlantic Ocean, though. These leaders are caught between the Atlantic Ocean and Nigeria. They could have been thrown over the Atlantic Ocean like other gangster regimes do. What regimes do in Africa is that when they catch hardened criminals, they take them over the helicopter. Remember, there was a helicopter at the time. Francophones, you also the pictures of this flight. Francophones had reported it. They could take them over the helicopter, go over the Atlantic Ocean and kill them and dump them. You will see their bodies after some days or they could dump them anyhow, dig a pit or whatever and dump them and bury them in a mass grave. Those are things that are very possible. We've seen several videos of that in Africa. We saw videos where soldiers were shooting people in the pit, shooting and killing and throwing ground over them. These are things that are recorded. So these are the facts I am presenting to you as someone who is even more liberal in the struggle. I'm not part of the IG, I'm not part of any group, but I know and I work with all of these groups. These people, the leaders, are all my top friends. So if I'm placing this, I'm not accusing anybody. I'm saying ask the right questions to Milan. Ask Milan the very right questions, the undeniable questions. I have said it and I will say it again. At this particular stage of the struggle, we should march on. If we want to keep distracting ourselves with what is happening behind us, we will keep distracting ourselves forever. At this particular stage of the struggle, we must all march on. March on to the finishing line. One, these people intending arresting also Mark Beretta, Tapang Ivo and the rest, but they did not succeed. So there are still people who will be partnering with you, who would come on a daily basis to show their faces and their names and everything. We have risked all. I have nothing more to gain. This is me. This is my true face. We have risked all and we will still be part of this struggle to fight to the end. Remember, our ultimate goal is the independence of Southern Cameroon. That is our final goal. Whatever happens in between this stage, we don't care, and nothing will stop us. Even if we have the best of federation, we will still fight for the independence. Remember, even if we have the best of decentralization, as Mr. Biya proposes, we will still fight for the independence. Even if we have nothing, we will still fight for the independence. So whatever happens between now and the independence, we don't care. Even if they kill all our leaders, our children will still fight for the independence. As simple as you put it, as simple as that. So one, let me get to another point. As clearly as stated, Chiroma Bakari will be coming up with another lie to tell you that these leaders, there were some Anglophones who attacked the prison and they tried freeing Ayuk Sisiko and the rest. In the process, the guards opened fire and these leaders were all killed. That is a possible claim. I am talking here as a security analyst. If I'm a president tomorrow, or I'm a leader tomorrow, or I'm working for any government or advising any government, this is what I would tell the government to say to the public. Remember, this is all politics. This is what I would tell the government, say like this to the public, and there's nothing the public will do about it. In the first place, it was a jailbreak. In the second place, the prisoners had to be freed. The third place, these prisoners were tried for treason, terrorism. And in the fourth place, the guards had to secure their own lives. So firing, and all of them were killed. That could be a possible claim. If Yaoundé stays mute as we speak, the pressure is going to mount. The United Nations is going to continuously bash Cameroon, and probably the GDP will drop from 2.8% to finish to zero, making Cameroon the worst country that has ever existed on earth. That means a so-called country. And this particular 2018 has so many at hand. And Mr. Biya wants to clear his name, clean his image, and put forth a brilliant international reputation. Remember, all states care about their reputation. This particular 2018 and 2019. What are the stakes at hand? The 2018 elections are coming up. Francophones are gradually rising up against Mr. Biya. Mr. Biya is looking for something to hang on to. And what he could hang on to is his fight against Anglophones. And that is what Francophones want to sit and watch while chewing popcorn. For the past 2 years, 2016, 2017, it has been 2016, oh, we said no violence, please don't provoke. 2017, we said no, don't provoke, please, don't provoke, please. If a policeman wants to hit you, don't provoke, don't agitate. But 2018, we are saying resist and fight and protect and kill those terrorists who come around to kill your mother, to kill your brother, to kill your sisters, to terrorize your villages. Kill them. 2016, 2017 is completely different from 2018. Get that straight. If you see a soldier, a terrorist coming to kill your mother as a self-defense right, kill that terrorist. That is exactly what I would do if you come to attack my family. That is exactly what I will do. So at this stage, we are not saying you should provoke. We are saying you should defend. At this stage, we are not saying you should attack. We are saying you should defend and attack. That is the whole stage. It will come to a point where everything will get loose and no one will have control over the masses. This is how the struggle is moving from one stage to the other. It will come to a point where everything will be cacophony and no one will have control over the masses. Every step Mr. Biya has taken from the first day to the last day have all been wrong steps. The steps have helped to fuel the crisis and it is unacceptable. However, there are so many things to talk about. I will go on to talk about the soldiers who are presently in southern Cameroon, but first I want to give them a congratulatory message. I congratulate them and I thank them for what they have been doing so far. Do you know what? The people who have collaborated with us so far are soldiers. When something happens, they send us the images. How do you think those images, those photos of soldiers lying in Dadi village in the bus? You saw the horrible images of soldiers lying in the bus. They film themselves and they send it to us. And when they send it to us, of course, these are soldiers. When they send such an image to us, they tell you exactly, a picture is worth 1,000 words. They tell you exactly that this is what they are facing. They are not happy about the situation. They are very in a state of despair. They are in the worst conditions. They sleep in the open. The rainy season is approaching and they have nowhere to hide. These people consistently, over time, will rise up against Mr. Biya and expect an army mutiny anytime soon. These soldiers are very worried. There is no gas in their cars to move around from one village to the other. The villagers are becoming increasingly armed even with machetes. And that is why you see them seizing machetes. The villagers are becoming very brutal in the way they do that. And you see them, they have the right to do that. And then the soldiers are becoming very few. They are now bribing army colonels not to send the soldiers to fight in southern Cameroon. I know about a commissioner of police who is about relocating to Francophone Cameroon because he is afraid of his own life. Soldiers are now increasingly living in barracks. You will not see a soldier working as one person. They work in pairs or they work in groups because they are afraid. Now families of policemen and even gendarmes and armies have been relocated to La Republique du Cameroon, and even the soldiers themselves now sleep in the offices. I mean, from police officers to whoever, they now sleep in their offices because they fear going back into the neighborhoods where the people will kill them. That is a fact. Mr. Biya has increasingly brought the soldiers closer to our claims, and these people are now buying with us, and of course, they will rise up against Mr. Biya. No one can ever defeat citizens. No one, no fight against citizens can hold. This is a guerrilla warfare. So I want to thank the soldiers, and I want to thank them most especially to defect from Mr. Biya's camp. You have to defect. There is no way they should be part of Mr. Biya's camp because increasingly they'll kill them. They'll kill them. You are living in the, I cannot live in the midst of civilians that hate me. They will kill me. Even if I kill one, I'll turn my back. They will stab me and kill. Increasingly, soldiers leave that land. Don't do it. You will be killed. You can kill one civilian, two civilians, but the next person will kill you. And when a soldier falls, it's like the entire country has fallen. Every country is proud of a soldier. And one soldier is equivalent to 50,000 civilians. So you kill only 5 civilians and they kill you, so who loses? Who loses? And these civilians have nothing to lose. Weigh your stakes. When you want to go into the war, there's what we call the cost-benefit approach. What is the cost of that war? What is the benefit of that war? If the cost outweigh the benefit, don't do it. If the benefit outweigh the cost, do it. But here, let us analyze the cost-benefit approach. 1, what is the cost? You are a soldier, you already have a job. The little money you have, you're taking care of your family. Here is a civilian who has no job. He is frustrated. His life has been murdered. Everything, his family members have been murdered. He has nothing to lose. So you have something to lose. The civilian has nothing to lose. So why are you fighting that civilian? Leave, flee and help your family. Number 2, this is a civilian who knows that he has nothing and he will never gain anything in the state of southern Cameroon or even in La Republique. You know that you will always gain something because you're part of the service and you will always be paid. So why are you fighting to die? Die over what? killing a civilian, it baffles me. Look at the young gendarmerie, the young gendarme lady who was killed yesterday. A small girl, less than 30 years, killed in Kumbo. Is that the kind of life you want to live? Living in fear among your own citizens? Really? So the soldiers should defect immediately. Move from, if I were you, I would seek a transfer. Move and defect and save your life and your family. Increasingly, the soldiers are now living in barracks, and the barracks have no beds. They are now looting people's properties, getting into stores, and in Mountain, what is happening is that they are killing goats and making barbecue. They kill goats and they make barbecue goats. That is what the soldiers are doing. There's no food. The military, the gendarmes, the general in the army, 2 generals in the army have embezzled the money that was sent to Mamfe to help these soldiers. They have embezzled the money, and they are taking bribes now from soldiers not to send them to the field to fight. So soldiers are increasingly bribing the generals that they should not go down to Mamfe to fight or go down to southern Cameroon to fight, because they may end up losing their lives. Look at what is happening among the Francophone groups. You know, Francophones are very erratic. Just like the way they announced the leaders who were arrested or whatever in Nigeria, just like how they broke the news, they would broke all kinds of news. Francophones would be the first people, if they're seeing those leaders, they will tell you exactly where those leaders are in Yaoundé. None of them till date have even done so. None. And Francophones are well connected among themselves. If your father is a president, or if your father is working for the military or a security guard, he will tell a friend will tell another one, and none of them, just all facts put together, those leaders are not in Yaoundé. They are not in Yaoundé. The same Francophones have been reporting over the media, over their own media, that they have counted more than 400 bodies. Go on the social media and read. A Francophone journalist is saying that every blessed day, the soldiers who are arriving as dead bodies in the military hospital in Douala is alarming. The number of soldiers is alarming. Then they're talking here about a single day, like yesterday, as they said, they received more than 100 corpses. And the irony is, the Cameroon government is not revealing to the public the number of dead bodies they have been receiving, because it will greatly demoralize the Francophones. As we speak, the Francophones thought the war would be an easy war, but they have been greatly demoralized by the way the Anglophones operate.